So I started out to review Xeno Crisis months ago, and I know I'm not consistent in my release schedule, and so the intention was to play something quick and pound out the review in a timely manner. I picked Xeno Crisis for that game, because I really wanted to play it, and because I didn't think it would take that long to complete. I believe in either beating all the games I review or getting basically to the end. But how little I knew about the game I was starting. Towing the fine line between a punishing challenge and a rewarding one, this stellar twin-stick throwback wears its influences on its sleeve. You go from room to room, shoot in 8 directions, and fight off waves of enemies that spawn. 2 players can play at once, and as you fight the swarms of aliens, you'll be rewarded with various guns and power-ups. Along the way, there are civilians to save, named after Kickstarter backers, I think. At the end of each stage, you fight some pretty cool bosses.
Look at the size of that thing!
So, all that's obviously real familiar to fans of Smash TV. But elements like a dodge roll that can be cancelled in mid-animation, a powerful melee attack, grenades, and even an upgrade shop elevate the gameplay to a whole other level above anything else released back in the day. I applaud the developers for making something that feels so rooted in the past while still advancing the gameplay into the new era. Even after what was probably like 20 attempts, not only do I feel like there's a ton of room for my improvement, but the randomized elements give the game a great replayability as well. Take for instance the dodge roll and melee attack I mentioned. Skilled players would be able to kill most enemies with one knife attack, rolling in and out of danger, and probably speedrun the game. Not me though. No sir. I can't even beat it on easy mode, which, by the way, is in no way easy. And that's kind of insulting for a game I truly enjoyed so much otherwise. I spent weeks trying, maybe a couple attempts a day, and the more I died, the more my enthusiasm to review it declined. Now, here we are 3 months later, I'm gloriously behind on my video production, and sitting on a folder full of gameplay footage. But since I've seen most of the game, and almost got to the final boss, I think I can review it without breaking my rule. I'm sure if I kept going, I could beat the final boss, right? No, I couldn't. And you want to know why? While doing a little research, I found out if you spend any continues, you can't even fight the final boss. The game just ends no matter how many lives you have left. You already had a limited amount of credits, in a game that is very hard even on easy mode. I just want to say, what's the freaking point in even having them? Practice runs? I'll be honest, if I spent another 12 hours trying to get to the end only to be told I couldn't for using a feature that is built into the gameplay, let's just say I would probably be having to pry my controller out of a brand new hole in the wall. The developer defended this on a Steam post by saying he wanted to throw back to challenging games like Ghosts and Goblins. But like someone pointed out, Ghosts and Goblins didn't end the game completely when you got to the final boss. It gave you a whole other playthrough. Punishing you for doing something I would assume a huge majority of players wouldn't be able to do is just sadistic. And knowing this fact reduces most of my desires I have to keep trying. Clearly, I just suck. But I do anticipate playing it again from time to time in the future. That's my major complaint, but I do have a couple of minor ones. The game seems like a wee tad floaty to me. I can't say if it plays that way on any other consoles or other controllers, but on the Xbox pad it feels just slightly loose. Also, some of the enemies just spawn right on top of you, and the game is so chaotic you're likely to be focusing on clearing a group of aliens who are approaching you and have another enemy drop down right on top of you or come up from the ground below and cause a cheap hit. Considering you only have a few life hearts and can't even continue and win, it's a shame in a game that otherwise is pretty fair. Xeno Crisis was released digitally on newer systems, and even a couple of older consoles like the Sega Genesis and Dreamcast saw limited physical print runs, and I absolutely adore that indie developers are still making games for older hardware. While I have no idea how the physical versions on older consoles sound and play, in the current gen versions the music is simply awesome, and there are something like 100 plus high quality voice clips and grunts and such that really add life and personality to the experience.
Watch your back! What happened here? What is it?
The stages and enemies have a good variety graphically. Likewise, their attack patterns are mostly unique, and it keeps you on your toes as you learn. It all looks great for what is basically a 16-bit game. Remember, this runs on the Sega Genesis, although it would have easily bested most Genesis games back in the day, as the programmer squeezed what I would assume is almost all of the power out of that original hardware. I think Xeno Crisis is a wonderful game in almost all aspects except for the fact that it's just a bit too hard, given that you ultimately can't continue and win. I feel like skilled players will get the most out of the game as they come to terms with the possibilities of using the dodge cancel and melee attack and the playstyle that opens up. I'm sad that I'll probably never see the credits roll, or even the final boss for that matter, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it and I do hope we get a sequel someday. It won't appeal to everyone, but it scratches all the right itches needed by any good retro shoot 'em up. If you like Smash TV or other twin stick shooters, I think you'll find a lot to like here. Final score? 8.5. Pros: impressive graphics and sound, deep gameplay that rewards skill, cool upgrade shop between stages. Cons: continues are pointless, easy mode is too hard, slightly floaty controls, occasional cheap hits.